Either it's a universe of scarcity or it's a universe of abundance. Both are correct.
You were hanging out with Mark Cuban.
He said, I've made more money being nice than being mean.
Let's talk about that. How did you meet Johnny Depp?
Talked earlier about Richard Saul Wurman. So he's the founder and creator of TED. But every time we chat, he always says, Paul, we have very limited time together. You're asking me the wrong questions. Entrepreneurs are the rock stars of our times. Culture drives business, culture drives politics, culture drives everything.
What is your dream?
Came up with this idea for our conference, had really big speakers, filled room, and had a lot of sponsors on the line. The day before the conference, I had less than $100 in my bank account. I was thinking to myself, oh my God, if this conference doesn't work out for whatever reason, I'm toast. We need to celebrate the power of imagination. We need to tell people it's okay to fail.
Hello everyone. Welcome back to Karthik Unfiltered, your go-to podcast for entrepreneurship, geopolitics, and everything that's happening around the world right now. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by an extremely special guest, Paul Koidis. Paul, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking your time out. If you may, I would love to read out an introduction. I'm thrilled to be joined by Paul Koidis, a dynamic marketing leader, media producer, and one of the founding forces behind Global Citizen in North America. He worked with major media houses like Bell Media, City TV, and PBS. But what sets him apart is how seamlessly he blends creativity, education, and social impact. Beyond the spotlight of his entrepreneurial work, Paul has made a profound mark in education. He's held senior academic roles, including Associate Dean in Durham College. He was a Dean at Georgian College and now currently serving as a Dean at Canadore College. And his main focus and mission is to empower the next generation of entrepreneurs and leaders that are going to come out of Canada. But Paul does not just teach, he curates transformative experiences. Under his leadership, at least what I've found is students have had direct access to visionaries like Malika Chopra, Tony Robbins, founder of TED Talks. They all come and talk in his institution. And that's a very creative way of leadership and the exposure that current generation needs. And not a lot of leaders think in this direction. So today we are going to unpack Paul's journey, his most impactful collaborations, creative philosophy, and what it really takes for young Canadians to thrive in a world that is defined by innovation, uncertainty, and possibility. So grab your coffee and let's get into it. Thank you for taking your time out, Paul.
And thank you. And thank you for the introduction. I think I'd like to hire you to come work with me. That's a fantastic way to get me excited about this. So thank you for those kind words.
I'm blessed to have you here. We were discussing earlier. Initially, I was thinking, okay, talk about education because that is what my focus was. But after I started doing my research and looking up, you've done a lot of things. So can you tell me a little bit more about yourself that is probably not in this introduction, like inner look into who actually Paul Koidis is? Like, what was your childhood like and what drove you to the direction that you're in right now?
Sure. So lately, I've been thinking about that myself too, because projects have come together and the exposure has sort of grown and more people are getting curious. I get that question from time to time because it's not a very orthodox pathway. And I wonder to myself, actually, how did I get here? Because that's a very interesting question. You tend to follow my bliss, and that is a very famous line by Joseph Campbell, who also wrote a very famous book called A Hero with a Thousand Faces about the power of mythology and storytelling through the ages and going forward. And in many ways, I guess I have followed my bliss, but there's probably a little bit of karma at work. So I'll explain. So when I was younger, now that I think about it, I really did not like school at all. I would, any excuse I could find to not go to school, I mastered every one of them. And there was a time when we didn't have the same kind of communication between teachers and parents. So my parents had no idea what was happening, and I just chose not to go to school most of the time, even though I tend to be in accelerated programs, like gifted programs from time to time. I just hated it. And karma, being the force that it is, for some reason, I spent the last 25 years of my career working in education.
Yeah.
So somebody's trying to teach me a lesson about something, but I've never really understood why people do things without thinking about why they do things. And so that was probably a reason why I didn't like school, because I wasn't sure why we were learning these things, how we were learning these things. And I always had a lot of questions. And so a lot of my life and career has been around trying to answer these questions, I guess.
And you've been able to find those answers, and that's why we find a lot of value in you. So tell me a little bit about it. So you're passionate about music, art, producing phenomenal work. Watched one of your documentary on diabetes. That was phenomenal. So if I were to pick one or two aspects of Paul that would set him apart, what would you choose? Would you choose your entrepreneurial side of work? Would you choose education? Would you choose music? What would you choose?
So again, another really interesting question. And I don't know, because I think it's all about how, and this is a good time to have this conversation widely, I think, the definitions of things that we have. So I'll give you an example. Let's take the word entrepreneur, okay? Where I come from, and I've spent my life working with entrepreneurs. My family were always entrepreneurial. And to me, that meant being creative. You have to figure out ways to solve problems, figure out ways to get into new markets, figure out ways to get income out of nothing. And so that just naturally meant to be creative. You talk to a lot of other people, when they think of entrepreneurs, they think of people who wear a suit and tie, carry a briefcase, and look at spreadsheets all day. And that's their version of an entrepreneur, which is not my version of an entrepreneur. And I think if you look at most of the entrepreneurs, they tend to be very creative people because they're looking at the world in a different way. They're solving problems that other people can't solve, and that adds value. So if I had to pick something, it would be very difficult. And I think that's why I haven't chosen one pathway. I just find ways to bring it all together. And what I find interesting too is that human beings have a wide variety of interests. So just because you're an engineer doesn't mean that you don't like music.
Makes
or
sense.
just because you're a musician doesn't. In fact, most musicians are phenomenally insightful about mathematics, because math is the basis of music. So I just like to live in a world of new ideas.
Amazing.
And how I can manifest those ideas, whether it's through, and actually, I'll just say one thing. You know, you talk about education and filmmaking. Really, at the highest level, transcendent storytelling and filmmaking teaches you something.
Absolutely.
And a transcendent, gifted teacher knows how to tell a story. So in my mind, they're one and the same.
Yeah. Talking about filmmaking, you've done some award-winning documentaries. One of them were also in Toronto International Film Festival. Could you throw some light on your experience on working with Toronto International Film Festival, or at any capacity what you've done in the past?
Sure. So I've known the people at TIFF before it was called TIFF, and for years, and very close to some of the key leaders and architects who created it. Like Pierce Handling or Wayne Clarkson, like Bill Marshall, who was the creator and founder of TIFF. I've known of them and worked with them for over 25 years. This year will be the 50th anniversary of TIFF.
Wow.
Most people don't know or appreciate how it got started. The fact that this international festival, which captures the world's attention, hearts and minds around the globe, doing the impossible, was such an unlikely thing to happen in Toronto in 1976. Toronto in 1976 is not the Toronto that you see today.
Yeah.
It was a very sleepy, kind of boring town that, up after 6 o'clock. And the fact that somebody, an entrepreneur, creative person who also understood business by the name of Bill Marshall, had the idea to start a international film festival in Toronto was a ridiculous idea.
Yeah.
And look at where it is now.
Absolutely.
It's an amazing story that I think everyone should know more about, because we should really appreciate what it took to get here.
Yeah, I mean, 50th year is a big thing, and obviously it's renowned all across the world. Most movies apply to be premiered there. And how did you get to do a documentary there?
Sure.
How was your experience?
It was always a story that I thought needed to be told for the reasons that I mentioned before. I wanted to teach people something. I don't know why. I think it's my place to do that, but I just felt that I should. And it was a great story to tell. And I tried to get it made the traditional way a couple of times, as people would do, very respectful of the system and the process. And it was just a maddening experience. And I thought, living in a day and age when really I don't need to do things the traditional way. So I just made it. I just started calling people to interview the key people who knew how to tell the story, and I just put it together. And now that this is the 50th anniversary, I'm in conversation with Rogers about getting it out there. But I prefer to make films outside of the system, which is how TIFF was made. TIFF was made outside of the system. If they had tried to go through the system, there'd be no TIFF.
Makes sense. Something that I admire about you is your ability to reach audience at different levels, creatively tell stories, but also focus on social impact. So can you tell me, how can we continually grow towards the journey of being able to be creative yet create some social impact?
So, yeah, it's a good question, and I appreciate, again, your kind words around that. I think that it's all about establishing a consciousness around this thing. I think we're at a time now when we realize that we have one or two pathways to choose as a humanity. We can either go down the pathway of self-interest, competition, and that leads to some very dire consequences. Or we can think about an elevative way of viewing ourselves in the universe of things. And once told me, it's a universe of scarcity or it's a universe of abundance. Both are correct.
Yeah.
Create that. And so I think this is the mindset, because a scarcity mindset creates the competition, creates the conflict, and then we all just start hating each other. So I think if you think about it, if we agree with modern physics, the universe is ever expanding.
Absolutely.
So by definition, it's abundant.
Yeah.
We need to start thinking that way to find abundant solutions. And this is kind of the experience was with starting Global Citizen. It was a very similar way of looking at that.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about it. I'm very curious. You were hanging out with Mark Cuban last weekend.
Yes, he was kind to talk to me. Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, what was the conference, and what was your takeaway from meeting global leaders like him? He's a serial entrepreneur, one of the greatest capitalists. I know right now he's sort of trying to get into politics a little bit, but he's a key figure in being able to inspire entrepreneurs. So what were your takeaways from Mark Cuban?
Well, but Mark Cuban, the one thing that struck me the most while he had his talk, and we were chatting a bit in the green room, but when he was on stage, he said, Mark Cuban, he said, I've made more money being nice than being mean.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that was the reaction that everyone in the audience had. And what a wonderful thing to sort of hear, very inspiring. The reason why Mark Cuban was there, and this was a Global Citizen-led event in Detroit, a city in the United States. It's undergoing some renewal. And this, again, a very creative way to bring capital, creativity together to build some value that people will care about, to then create some economic prosperity. And I really love the way they're looking at that. Mark is a part of, he was there on behalf of Global Citizen. Global Citizen is an organization that I've been involved with since before it was called Global Citizen. And again, that was a very entrepreneurial moment. I met some people. Actually, I met this guy who knew a guy from Australia, and I got him on the phone. No one knew who this person was in North America, and just on one phone call, I agreed to bring him to Toronto. His name was Hugh Evans, and to present him. And no one knew who he was. We had no idea how this was going to happen. I just knew that it was a good idea. And so we brought him to Toronto, said he'd never been to North America before. I rented out a big hall in Toronto that held about 1,500 people, and I had to figure out a way to fill this hall, finance this whole thing, make it happen. It was during TIFF, actually, and we did. And we had up around the building on the Danforth. Again, no one knew who he was. And then about 2 weeks later, I found myself in New York with him, hanging out with Hugh Jackman and Deepak Chopra and Donna Karan in some apartment where he was giving the presentation about the vision, the future that he wanted to develop. And so I thought, okay, I guess I'm here for a reason. I helped him create it. And now Global Citizen mobilizes billions of dollars every year towards the world's most important causes.
That's unbelievable, and that's very inspiring. You spoke about Deepak Chopra, someone that I admire a lot, and he opened up a new world of learning and understanding, especially at a time where at that point of time probably he went through a lot to be able to educate about inner meditative art and meditation. What is your take on meditation? I know that you also had his daughter as a guest speaker in your college. So, can you bit of your experience with Deepak and his work?
So, I first met him when I was in New York that same time, and I 3 days before I met him, such an impossibility that I was ever going to meet this person, but I wanted to meet him, and but I had this thought in my head that I was going to meet him. And, we talk about things a lot, and perhaps that's what I was doing, because I do believe there is a greater force out there, a greater power, and it all stems from our consciousness. And most transcendent political leaders over time, business leaders, have that same philosophy if you actually look into sort of what they believe. Anyway, so as the universe kind of rearranged itself to create this, where next thing you know, I was in huge talking to Deepak Chopra, which was the most surreal thing at the time you can imagine. And I had a student with me at the time too, who had never left Toronto. And so I think all of a sudden he was, sort of in this other world. Deepak was great. We had a wonderful chat. He always has fantastic ideas. He was not taken seriously when he started.
Of course, yeah.
People thought it was Tony Robbins, someone else who I know. These guys weren't taken. They were ridiculed. They were criticized. And eventually, I think the world caught up with what they were talking about. And so I feel that, meditation, this power to get older. The question is, not do I believe, but I think I only believe in magic now, because I think there's a power out there, and I think it's about knowing how to harness it. And I think that physics and science are catching up to the point where they can actually prove that this is happening. So, the one thing about, I got to know his daughter, quite well. I brought her to Toronto a couple of times for different things, and she's been involved in a couple of my projects, and I just find them to be the most genuine people, very inspiring.
Do you meditate yourself?
Funny you should ask, because it's been suggested to me a number of times, and I have lately been looking into it on a more serious level. So maybe this is my cue from the universe to sort of maybe attempt it. Again, I do think it would, practice yoga. So Steve Wozniak, his partner, I know that we've chatted a few times about, and Steve Wozniak was the technical,
Of course, yeah.
right? He'd solve problems in that. Steve Jobs
Was the
very different. So Steve Jobs is known for three things. He is known for his ability. He's known for design. He's known for business and technology. The reality is, he really knew very little about technology. He didn't even know how to write code at all. So he really didn't understand it. He knew very little formally about business because he dropped out of school. And he would often misquote designers and things. He didn't really know about that. However, and I believe this was because of his yoga practice, and he did meditate. He was a masterful, genius level at synthesizing things. He could surround himself with a table of experts from every field, listen to what they had to sort of say, but he knew what to pick from every person to create something new.
Yeah.
That is, like a maestro. That is transcendent thinking. And the way he could get there was by practicing meditation and mental states of awareness to do that through yoga.
Yeah. There is something that I recently did. I was obviously, any young person in Toronto, no matter how well they think they're professionally doing, it's a tough time. It's a very tough time to be a young Canadian citizen right now because of a lot of issues that we have, housing affordability and many issues. So stress is something that has taken over, and I'm sure you would see that amongst most of your students as well. running businesses, having a career, I was going through a lot of stress and some personal situations as well. And someone recommended me this program called as Inner Engineering, that is by this phenom. His name is Sadhguru. I'm not sure if you've
I've heard of this.
heard
Yes.
of him.
Yep. Mhm.
He was recently in Toronto, and I think he had over 20,000 people, or anywhere in 5 to 20,000 people in there. I attended his teachings, and I picked up meditation for the first time in my life. And somehow I figured out an ability in myself to be able to calm myself down and focus on one issue at a time. So I believe that is one of the biggest, gift meditation can give us, which is an ability to focus on one thing at a time, although you're in middle of a lot of chaos that's going on. I really hope that, a lot of the meditative and yogics can get out and a lot of pick it up so it can help the stress we are living in right now.
And yes, and beyond that too, I think it's going to be a key differentiator for next level leadership.
Yeah.
Because the world doesn't get any less complicated, more tragic, more complex. There's more things going on, and any kind of leadership, whether it's business leadership, public sector, political leadership, thought that.
Yeah.
I think that it's no something nice to look at. It be a necessity.
Yeah.
If we're going to survive and thrive. So yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, you've met a lot of leaders throughout your, what are some of the, most impactful leadership lessons that you have meeting some of these big leaders? It may be Tony Robbins, it may be Deepak Chopra, it may be, I've seen you meeting Johnny Depp.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. How did you meet Johnny Depp?
It was one of those manifesting moments. One of the films I made, it was a documentary about a neighborhood in Toronto called Yorkville. And Yorkville was where, back in the 60s, a lot of hippies out there. It wasn't the Yorkville that you see today. It was a very downtrodden place. And it became a bit of a mecca for the folk music scene, which then translated into sort of a classic rock music scene. The Neil Youngs of the world, Joni Mitchell, they all moved to California from Yorkville and created this global sound. Anyway, I made a film about that. And I got invited to show my film in Europe, and which it won an award while I was there. And while I was there, again, where it was in Eastern Europe, I noticed that a band that included Johnny Depp and Alice Cooper and Joe Perry from Aerosmith were going to be playing in that city. And then I remembered, I think the producer of that band was in my film. And so I sent him a note, this guy by the name of Bob Ezrin, who well known for producing, Pink Floyd and Alice Cooper and U2, Gabriel. And I said, hey, Bob, strange thing. But I'm here in town, my film, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, result of all that with Johnny Depp and Alice Cooper. And wonderful. Johnny Depp was probably one of the nicest people I've ever met. He was very genuine. When he heard that we had a mutual friend in common, it felt like I was meeting a cousin. He was a very warm, compassionate guy from what I met. But anyways, that was one of those manifesting moments.
Amazing. So that's one of the thing about leadership. So a lot of times, what individuals think about leaders is, they're very busy and, they do not have time. But when big leaders, what you realize is they do not look like they do not have time, right? They give you that attention, they give you that focus. What are some of the leadership principles that you've probably picked up or learned from some of these big leaders? And you can feel free to name some of the big leaders that you have interacted with.
To your point, and I'm a lot of CEOs and leaders and things, the ones who I remember, because I felt there was some importance in meeting them, made me feel important. That was the connection.
Yeah.
I think that there's many different styles and different things work. There's many leaders who lead through intimidation. I guess it works. There's other leaders who lead through inspiration. I prefer to, in my capacity, I think it's always been inspire people. Because if you inspire people and you bring out what's best in them, that value just is exponential. And that generates value. That has real value. I mean, that can be monetized, can be in many ways. And the potential for people to do great things, in my mind, for the most part, is just the key to it is through inspiration. And so my style and that I try to emulate from other people is just to empower them. And Usually the results are through the roof. I remember when I met Bill Clinton one time, and you know, for what it's worth, when you meet, you are the most important person in the room, not him, you, and he makes you feel that way. That's a gift.
Amazing, amazing. What do you think that the current is lacking when it comes to leadership? Because think about it. When you think about leaders of yesterday or yesterday's age, millennials and, before, they had a intuitive thought process. Steve Jobs, like he was an intuitive person that is why he was able to recognize. Now we are living in a time where we are, consumed in our cell phones and AI, and we have outsourced our intuition and thought process out of these AI bots and agents. What do you think our generation right now can do to pick up leadership so we do not drop the ball and continue to grow?
So I think there's many ways to answer that question, but the most profound thing that's happening right now, without question, is AI. I mean, you can't deny it. What this next generation is going to look like, because I think the current generation, the mold's already been set, so it'll just play itself out. What's more important is to look at what's going to happen next. And the thing about AI and leadership and just our survival as a civilization is that we have to, once again, change our mindset. So the thing about it is that we probably have never had as much potential and promise as we have with it. At the same time, equally peril. I don't think we're asking the right questions. And I think the most important thing that the next generation can do is to learn how to ask the right questions, because that, I think, is what propels humanity forward. A lot of these great leaders of the past, they all had questions. What's a question? It's a quest. It's an adventure. It's a journey. So they wanted to. They had a question about, how can I connect a country through, in the industrial age, and thus came the. How can I build a middle? You have the Industrial Revolution, the autos. Then digital technologies came, changed their way of thinking. Now with AI, the problem is everyone is thinking about it from a scarcity mindset. It's going to take away my job. It's going to do these things. Probably. Yeah. However, what can it provide you? And so you talked to Richard Saul Wurman. So he's the founder and creator of TED, a friend of mine. And we have some limited time together. But every time we chat, he always says, Paul, we have very limited time together. You're asking me the wrong questions. And he was right. And so I think mindset, it's all about asking the right questions. That, I think, is going to be the most important thing for the next generation of leadership. Knowing to ask the right questions. I mean, may I ask you, what do you think AI to do to society? You're a young, creative entrepreneur. Yep. I admire what you do. I want to know what you think about AI.
I do agree that a lot of people may lose jobs because of AI, not because AI is going to take over people's job. It's because people are not going to be quick enough to adapt on how to use AI in their jobs. That is what I personally think. Every 10 years, there is an innovation that world, right? For example, there was Silicon Valley bubble burst, Google, right? When search engine came along, a lot of people freaked out, but right now, look at how far it has come. Similarly, I think it gives us the uncanny ability to think beyond what we are able to think right now and calculate quickly, but we should be the one who set our vision. So as long as I do not depend on AI to set a vision for me, I believe I'll be able to use it optimally and optimally very well. Second thing that I believe AI is going to do is it is going to challenge people to reason more and think smarter and equip themselves with a lot more data. Look at industries right now, right? My dad passed away a few years ago, and one of the main reason of how his health challenges got started was because he was a working man. He used to go to this hospital and he used to get basic medicines and to come take them and then just go about his work. Over a period of time, medicine that he used to take acted like a slow poison in killing his kidneys. But right now, I go to a Shoppers Drug Mart, get a medicine, I take a picture of it and I put it on ChatGPT. I learn about what is in it. And I know, okay, is this a good component to my body or not, right? So you were absolutely right. It's all about how we use it. I'm excited. I'm excited about future in AI. And I think it's going to be great if the younger generation learns how to use it and use it well. I also believe that there has to be some sort of regulation in terms of drawing that line in artificial generative intelligence so that we do not get addicted and dependent on AI. That's what I think.
That's a good answer. Yes. Yeah, I would agree with you. And you're asking the right questions. I can tell. That's good.
Thank you. Thank you. So now let's dive into education. This is where you've spent most of your career in. Right now, Canada is going through a challenging time. And you are focused on inspiring new entrepreneurs, encouraging entrepreneurship in your institution out there. What of the challenges you as a dean are facing right now?
Sure. So I'm going to take on two different things that you're talking about there. One, again, this idea of what an entrepreneur is. I truly believe that right now, entrepreneurs are the rock stars of our times. These are the people who are shaping culture, that are doing the most interesting things, just like the Beatles did in the 60s. Entrepreneurs are doing that because what they're creating affects people's lives in a way that they care about. And so that's important because culture, believe it or not, is everything. Culture drives business, culture drives politics, culture drives everything because we're humans. This is how we live. So it's all about understanding what an entrepreneur is and who is an entrepreneur, which I believe, it's not for everyone, but everyone can be. So it's important. Education, and I've been saying this to my colleagues a couple of years, and this kind of, again, this has to do what I've always said the last couple of years, and now it's starting to be understood. In education, we are in the intelligence business. If something comes along called artificial intelligence, you know that it's going to be seismically sort of, to what we do fundamentally, and that's proving to be the case. So now we need to think about education in terms of, knowledge transfer and what that really means. So if you think about it, there's levels. At first, we have data. Okay, facts, things we observe. This is one level. Okay, when you add meaning to the data, that becomes information. Right now, the data has meaning. Now it's information. When you take application to information, now that becomes knowledge. Okay, and then when you add experience to the knowledge, now becomes wisdom and true understanding. We are moving through those phases now. We're probably somewhere in between the information phase and the wisdom phase now, because what the colleges and universities do, we transfer information.
Correct.
Because up until now, there was no other way to do it. That was, knowledge transfer is probably the most important thing any society does.
Yeah.
Right? So this is what we did. But now, that information, well, we have generative AI, we have the internet. Many would say, well, I can have access to a Harvard lecture on a particular topic taught by the, presumably smartest person in the world on that subject. I probably want that information first. And now with AI, that gets more competitive. So now we have to evolve into the wisdom understanding phase of it, which is probably the best phase of all. So I think you're going to see a seismically different education system. This crisis that we're sort of seeing evolve now, it's going to end up in a good. We need to really start asking ourselves the right questions.
Absolutely. And it's always about being able to continue to add value. It's just that the definition of how value was being added in the past may not be the same right now.
I totally agree.
So you're continuing to evolve. What do you think is future of these colleges and universities? We are constantly looking at students who are not even having a piece of degree, but they're going and making great things happen out there. Do you think there is a possibility for us to change the definition of education just from degree or diplomas to something bigger?
Yeah. And I think it's going to require an individual or a company or someone to have the vision to do it. So again, Steve Jobs, before he passed away, the last market that he wanted to break into was the education market because he saw that as being the biggest societal impactor, a big revenue market. And he thought that the way in was going to be, this is many years ago, through textbooks. Which, he couldn't penetrate that market. I think what's just, if I could sort of follow the trajectory and game it a bit, is that we're going to go back to a very classical, ancient model of education. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with something called the trivium, but the trivium was a classical model, back in the days, which consisted of 3 parts: grammar, logic, and rhetoric. Okay, these are fundamental critical thinking skills that were the building blocks of everything else. I think we've lost that because we were in that information download period where we're just informing people. I don't know if a lot of that critical thinking was happening. I think the future of education is going to be rooted in that classical model again. So back in the Greek classical universities, when they didn't have this approach where people went to classrooms, sat in rows at a particular time, that model, that British style model, was really designed to work in the military and to work in factories.
Yeah.
Here's what you learn. Here's what it was. Rules. Before that, it was only the wealthy people afford to be educated because at the time, before the machine revolution where we had to do that, they would just, the classes would be spontaneous. You'd walk around the garden, learn from the masters.
Yeah.
I think we're going to go back to that.
Yeah.
That's the irony of it, but I think that's the foundation. That's the future.
And I actually agree with you. If you look at it, in my opinion, the common feeling across most people is that most educated people are probably scientists and doctors and whatnot. I believe artists are some of the most educated people because art is one of the toughest form of education that cannot just be transformed or transferred to anyone and everyone. And I feel artistic education has been reducing due to the technological advancements.
Yes, artistic in an industrial mode. I think it's going to change. And I think that we're actually entering into the age of the artist. You're going to see in 20 years, artists, once again, will be held at such a high esteem in society for what they do, like true artists. Look at filmmaking. Can I use it as an example?
Of course.
AI? I don't know if you've been watching any of the generative AI filmmaking that's out there. It's breakthrough stuff. You know that just amazing. It is probably the closest thing there is to lucid dreaming that we've ever had. Like, think of the power of that. So that all the things that had to happen in between to express a thought or tell a story, that barrier no longer exists.
Yeah.
Einstein would say, imagination is, way more information. We're entering into that. And I think that all of these, I'm excited about what the potential could hold. This when we sort of take the next great leap as a humanity, if kill ourselves in the process, because that can happen. I think all these things now we're going to break. So when you talk about education, it won't be a traditional approach anymore. Because
Makes
why?
sense.
Why do you need that approach?
Yeah.
People still want to be social and gather. They'll find ways to do that. I think education is going to be blown right apart.
And end of the day, we are social animals.
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely we are.
Yeah.
And we'll always find ways to be. We just used the education model at a certain age that made sense. That may continue. It probably will. But I think the art of learning is going to change.
Absolutely. I know we have limited time remaining, but I would like to maybe go like a quick rapid fire and ask you.
Okay.
Amongst all the projects that you've worked on so far in your career as an entrepreneur and leader, what are you the most proud of? What do you think was the most important accomplishment that you were able to accomplish? And what project was the most impactful?
Sure. And thank you. Actually, I've done a lot of things. Conferences, I have my consulting practice, global system. Like the one thing I'm most apart from is making the film. Because no one wanted me to make this film. I was told by everyone that I could not make this film. And I made it, and people liked it. And that was probably the most personally, professionally rewarding thing I've ever done. I don't even see myself as a filmmaker, but I guess now I am. So that I would say the film.
Okay, great. What is your dream right now?
I would love to create a new institute, which is like a problem-solving think tank, where we could gather the greatest minds, whether they're known or unknown, to come together through the ability that I have to bring people together to solve the world's biggest problems. That would be my dream, to set up that institute.
Amazing. What is difference according to you in between dream and vision?
Oh, it's the same. It's absolutely the same. Most people who've got a vision, they just have no idea of how they're going to get there, and they just keep going. Famously, kind of the world, those who see when you show them, and they never see. I see things. I just assumed everyone else did. They don't. God bless them. That's okay. Vision and dreams, to me, it's the same thing. It's the most important thing.
Was there ever a situation in your time, or where you wanted to give up on you still went on? So, if you're open to share, what was that situation made you to continue to go forward? How easy or hard was it?
Yeah. Oh, it happens to me all the time. All the time. It's when you talk to people, often the hero is the courageous person, that sort of, does all these things. No. The hero is often to death. And they do things despite being scared to death, which makes them the hero. And I remember one time I put on a conference all myself. I came up with this idea for a conference, had really big speakers, filled room, and had a lot of sponsors on the line. And the day before the conference, I had less than $100 in my bank account. I was thinking to myself, oh my God, if this conference doesn't work out for whatever reason, I'm toast. I'm going to lose all this sponsor money. I don't even have the money to sort of cover it. I have a mortgage to pay. I was sitting there the night before the conference, and I was almost praying. I said, if there was some way I could just press and fast forward past this 24 hours, that would be great. I was terrified, and I was at the conference all by myself, and it was really a low point. And I thought, what have I done? And I had and my host dropped out that night to make it. So I had to produce the conference, greet people at the door, do everything without them. It was a low point. In the end, it was a huge success. My sponsors loved it. The money came in. People really enjoyed the experience. It was a great success. But I tell you, that one, I had my doubts, big time.
Inspiring. And this is what, in my opinion, separates between a leader and someone who is not a leader. A leader is a doer. No matter what, they would just go through the journey. And my final question.
I was having so much fun. I guess I was just talking about myself, so I enjoyed it. No, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I enjoyed it a lot as well. My final question. What do you think? What are a few things that you would change in Canada? Because you are a leader in education space, and you know that Canada is a phenomenal country. We have resources. There is a lot we can do. However, there is a lot we're not doing right now. So what are a few things that we can fix right now? So 10, 20 years down the line, Canada can come back as a leader of the world.
That is an excellent question. I'm very close to some of the members of right now with our current Prime Minister, Mark Carney. And I admire some of these people. I trust them. I think that two things. I think we've lost a little bit, again, of our can-do entrepreneurial spirit. Okay. I think that certain conditions need to be met politically through the financial systems to help that happen. But at the same time, I feel that we don't want to lose the best of what made us so great to begin with. I know it's a delicate balance. We can find it. I think that we've maybe lost ourselves a little bit. I think the place to start is probably within the education system. I think we're failing our students by not imparting that wisdom that they need with those actual survival skills. We need to celebrate the power of imagination. We need to tell people it's okay to fail.
Of course.
And failure is the greatest teacher. And I think that if we do that, we need to stop being scared, and we need to think about, again, an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset. I think if we do these things and, again, have leadership that inspires and does not intimidate, I think that is probably our only hope. If we don't do it, I believe that we're going to find that the world is going to pass us by very quickly. The most important thing we can do is help the next generation, because it comes up very quickly. And again, I'm a believer in bringing all these worlds together. I think the time is done to separate them. Now's the time to converge.
Lovely. Paul, I do not think a 1 hour podcast would add justice to the wisdom that you have. And I look forward to see if we could have this again and dive more deep into your leadership mindset. Thank you for taking your time.
It is my pleasure. Thank you. And I'll bring my guitar next time. How's
Absolutely.
that? Okay, good. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. I hope you got a few things to pick up from today. And yeah, drop down in the comment section below whom you would to see next. And I'm excited to have that value added to you.